Welcome to Bitcoin Escape Plan. Has the Bitcoin bear market begun? We'll find out in today's episode. As always, we're going to start off with the 4-hour chart just to give you some actionable levels, and then we'll get into the rest of the analysis. So starting off, where are we at? Here's Monday. So Sunday, obviously, you saw we started dropping down. Wasn't able to make a video yesterday, but that's okay. We broke the SMA here and then continued to fail downward back to 86.5. We held it for a little while into the morning Monday and then lost it all the way down to this 84.7K pivot. And where did it land over here? 83.9K. Now, the levels that we had talked about previously are closer to here. We had talked about 83.6 before. These are new to me. We didn't really talk about those, but 80.4 we had talked about. And it does, at the moment, it looks like it is respecting new Fibonacci pivots instead of the previous ones that we were looking at, which is a slight sign of strength, not a great sign of strength, but that means it's probably going to retest up here if it can break above this in the next couple hours. What time is that? 20 o'clock. Should be 8 p.m. here. So there's still one more hour for this to close above this line, above 86.5. Otherwise, it is going to bounce back down here towards 84.7. And that's what I'll be watching because we're kind of far from the SMA at the moment, that 89.1-ish. So it's more likely that we're going to chop between these levels as opposed to break to that without new liquidity, because this is still a pretty strong move into the week. Let's see what we have on the anchor volume profile. On the anchor volume profile, we got a gap here. It looks like we partially filled that gap. We fell here because of this significant gap as well. So until we can start filling this up, we won't be rising any higher. All right, getting into the video. So has the Bitcoin bear market, has it begun? Let's take a look. Let's see what we can see. So over here, I'm going to get rid of this guy again. This is last month. Last month closed at 90.382. Now that's slightly below 90.4, which is a key daily pivot. So that's not what we wanted. It failed below that, and then it broke here, and then it continued to break here. But our best case scenario here is that this wick does not get lower than this wick, and that we either close the candle right above this at 88.7, 88.8, and we chop up to here, or it's going to break this again. Now, it's hard to say, because of a couple other factors. If we go and get a quick sneak peek at gold does not look like it's done. It looks like it might want another high. SPY as well does not look like it's done. Looks like it might want another high. So something important to keep in mind with Bitcoin as we are moving into the December rate cuts. I believe they either talked about that today or tomorrow. There's some favorability that we are going to see rate cuts. That doesn't necessarily mean that the price of Bitcoin is going to rocket from there. It's actually more common that it will consolidate for a while, and then there will be a major move after it's already been priced in. So that's kind of what we're waiting for at the moment. As you can see, the last time we touched the SMA was this guy over here. Much less dramatic than this. This was the dramatic candle back then. That was only an 18 point. Oh, well, somehow that's a larger drop. So I guess this is almost an identical one. So this is kind of where we are now, is we've touched the SMA. This will be the second month. And as you can see, it just kind of chopped. Like it didn't really set new highs. It wasn't able to break through these resistance levels at the time, which for me, I've talked about this many times already. 106.7 is the main level that I'm paying attention to for the month of December. If December cannot get past 106.7, then we're dropping again, closer to 80. My expectation for December and January is we're going to be stuck between these two Fibonacci pivots. I don't think we're going to be up here. It's possible that we get up there, but I don't see it in the month of December. Probably not the month of January either. There's a possibility that we have another rally, but I've got to assume, unless we see otherwise, that we're probably already in a, slightly right translated ending of the cycle, which means we wanted a right translated peak of the cycle, but instead I think it's just going to chop and then drop. Probably not lower than in this range though, which we've talked about before. 51 to 71, right around there. That would be the most I would expect in this drawdown here, with potential for it then to spike lower once the actual market fails. If the SPY and gold continue to set all-time highs right now, that will rotate into Bitcoin eventually. So I don't think that it just keels over and dies here. And we'll know, I would assume by like the middle of December, we'll know if we're actually going to touch this or if it's more likely that we stay closer to the 106.7K pivot. But that's pretty much what I expect, moving forward, is the next 2 months we're going to be between these Fibonacci pivots, 80 on the nose and 106.7K. If we take a look at the volume, so a lot of volume right where we are. The most volume is right here at 96. I've talked about 96 a million times. I know it's hard to read this. Oh my God, there's so many lines. And then I had talked about 117.6. But at this point, 117.6 is so far away. I barely believe that is going to happen in the next couple of months. So I would be looking for, clean short entries. Historically speaking, if we're just thinking about it as investors, it's always good to buy when it's below the monthly SMA. You might need to be buying for a long period of time. It's about a year that you would need to have dry cash, where really, if you take it in context, anywhere in here that you buy, even if you only bought this month, it only went a little bit further down than that. But if your average cost is 22 grand and it went to 126, it's almost a 6x. That's a great trade. It's a great trade with any amount of money. So that is what we should be focused on, is even up here, even if you had bought when it was there, that's 39. So let's call it 40 to 120. That's a 3x. That's still great money. You just had to wait a lot longer for it. That's really what you got to ask yourself, with your own Bitcoin escape plan. Are you buying this asset just because it is a trade? Is your cost basis way up here? Because if your cost basis is way up here, probably not a terrible idea to take some profits, or in your case, a loss, because it is going to continue dropping lower. But realistically, if your cost basis is already up here, just focus on making more money and then allocating when we are over here in these prices, which is likely where we're going to go. Now, do I think that we're going to have a complete failure and drop directly here? No, I don't. I think if we are going to go down below these levels, that's probably going to be in the latter half of 2026. I really expect it's going to behave more like these candles right here. And we can see, what did it do in 2018 at that point? 2018, kind of similar when it was on its way to the SMA. It chopped for a couple candles above and then it failed below. This one recovered fairly quickly and then did, of course, drop again in March of 2020. But this is less time that we spent, which is very possible. It's very possible this time. You got to remember, this was Donald Trump's presidency. That's who was president this time. It's my understanding that there was quantitative easing at this time as well. We need to check the exact data on that. This is why I follow Ben Cowan, not just me. But I believe that this period of time right here is right before quantitative easing, and then obviously the money printer went off in COVID. So that very well may be what we see is actually closer to this guy where we spent 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, roughly 9 months where we were below the monthly SMA. And then we had a rally that we really weren't quite done with the bear market phase. So this may even be 2027. We may see a rally into, the end of, well, let's think. So this would be 2026, in this example, is us going down the whole time, which I think is possible. Yeah, see here is really where we started the breakdown. We got to be prepared for that. That is a possibility, that we are already in the bear market and we're just going to continue to drop for an extended period of time. That recovery might come quickly, but if we're thinking about in terms of, and I'll end the video on this rant, the stablecoin acts, I believe, go into effect in July of next year, as well as in full effect in January of 2027. So if I'm just thinking about it like a rich person, if I put my tinfoil hat on, then what I want over that time period is I want the price of Bitcoin to go as low as possible. Because when I print trillions of dollars of stablecoins out of thin air backed by US Treasury bills that now foreign countries can no longer hold because of the tariffs, those are going to go to my customers. If I'm JP Morgan Chase, that's where they're going to go. They're going to go to my customer. They're going to go heavily into Bitcoin when it is at these levels between 51 and 71. So that's, I think, what we're going to see transpire is, this will continue to get hammered. The stories about Bitcoin will get worse and worse over the coming months. And that's specifically so that when, big institutions, when people are able to get large access to these stablecoins, when liquidity really returns to the market, this is what happens. Now, of course, this is COVID, so we won't necessarily print in the same manner. But that is mostly what I expect to happen from this movement, is it will be parabolic out of wherever we go to. And I think that's really important to remember, quite frankly, is even if we do go to 50 to 71 and lower, the move out of that will be tremendous. So it'll really just be a great opportunity to buy and nothing to be concerned about. Anyone who talks about Bitcoin sub $30,000 or how it's going to go back below 15.4 again, there's no basis in reality for that. It just doesn't seem like it. Seems like most people have a cost basis between here and here. Plenty of people bought here and just held it. Plenty of people bought in here and just held it. So this is kind of the lowest I believe that we can go, somewhere down here. Let's call it 35 to 39. That'd be the lowest I can believe. But again, that's not going to be next month. That's going to be sometime at the end of 2026. And that's going to be, major companies are going to go out of business. I would assume a lot of the Bitcoin treasury companies are going to go out of business. I don't think MicroStrategy is going to go out of business. You can check out my video about MicroStrategy. I don't know if that was my last video or the one before. Like and subscribe if you are enjoying these videos. This is my first one back with having internet. I will probably make another one tomorrow because I need to